Okay, so it's June 18th. This is just a sync call around the topology service overall. And there's mostly me setting up just so one, selfishly I catch up, and two, to see um like if there's any problems that we need to fix, or if there's any questions that are unanswered from your side. So yeah, Sylvester, you have some really good updates. Thank you. Is there anything we want to focalize there, or yeah.
So I think the main things to look at would be MTLS and
Mm,
also uh I guess the provisional SA bit is, I think Eddie is stuck on that. So I don't think I know how to help her unstuck. So I think that one she's calling for help with in that issue. Not this issue. Let me link that issue in so that everyone's on the same page.
yeah.
Just for clarity, the provisioner SA stuff is the cross project management.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Pro
I think there's issues with granting organization permissions.
Sorry,
Like the
cross
organization
org
policy.
is what I.
Yeah.
Cross org, yeah. Okay.
So I think the Terraform apply is failing for like some user project denied thing. So yeah, Eddie has asked for infrastack for help. So I'll just wait on that, and
Okay.
I'll keep tabs on that too. Yeah. So yeah, so
Cool.
that's that. Right now the on provisional side we've got MRs, we got the MR ready. I mean, it looks ready, but we haven't applied it, so we don't know. But once the provisional SA gets the roles attached correctly, then we'll get moving and see if there's anything that pops up. Yeah.
Cool.
Then I
Okay.
think MTLS. I think one of the things that we talked about in the last meeting was that there's. I think Camille talked about proxy protocol, and Gonz and I were like had like dug at the topic and found that it's not possible. Yeah, for Cloud Run to support it because Cloud Run runs in a serverless NEG. So there's been a POC about doing load balancer side MTLS, and it looks promising. So next steps right now we are discussing how we're going to manage the CA. Yeah,
Okay.
so that one
And
we have not discussed in detail yet. Yeah,
the POC was done already, right? Do I
yes,
understand right? Okay.
yeah, but
Cool. Okay. And is MTLS going to be like the CA stuff you mentioned? Is that going to be a runway concern, or is that going to be separate from runway?
yeah, that's the
That's
thing. We have not
yeah.
decided in full because Runway wants to be a platform as a service, so we provide users who want MTLS. So uh I
Yeah.
guess ideally like when users come to us, they just need to click we want MTLS, and we sort of these things are provided. But we also understand that CA is something that might be managed outside. Like users might have their own CAs. So we haven't discussed how we want to go about doing this. But for the POC, we've provided the certs. Like we put the
Yeah.
CA certs into Vault, and Runway CTL reads it. So that could be one way. And it's like, but I was thinking that could be an interface where you would put your CA certs in a fixed, more or less a fixed vault path per service, and you could choose to have it like we could provide it through provisioner, or you could provide your own. But I've not fleshed it out in full. I'm planning to discuss it with us tomorrow.
Yeah. And the reason I'm asking this is because we're going to be interacting with the CA outside of Runway, right? Like the clients need to generate certificates both from Cloudflare level and also from the Rails application level and like GitLab shell level, right? Because they all talk to the topology service. So those services need to generate a client certificate somehow at some point, and we need to configure it. So that's why I'm asking if the CA is going to be a runway concern or not. Makes sense. I would also suggest like who's working on, like I know you've already did the POC and it's like that. Are you going to completely drive it? Because I don't see anyone assigned to this issue, and that's why I'm asking. Like, who's gonna be the DRI of MTLS on runway and topology service? I guess my question is.
We haven't decided yet. I mean, I'm the DR of the Epic, but in terms of
Yeah.
workload, I'm not discussing Gonzalo in terms like because he's got his own OKR too, as a DI for his own OKR. So
No.
we've not worked out as to who's going to drive it. But right now, it's
Okay.
more, it's like a pairing thing. We'll probably have a more concrete answer tomorrow. Yeah, after we discuss.
Yeah, that's fine. No, I don't need an answer now. Like my question would be like, whoever picks it up, I would sync up with Gerardo, Jerry basically, because he will be picking up MTLS as a whole in the company. So it might be good to sync up. I'll let me add it as a to do. Ping Jerry in the MTLS issue to catch up. I'll ping him, and so he's aware that we're already working on this.
All right. When you say MTLS as a whole, you mean like have it across the whole of GitLab, right? So it's a very high level,
Yeah,
all-encompassing
like
thing. All right.
exactly. So and like it could be in the same in the way like where we say this is gonna be just a runway thing and that's it, or it could be say, oh, new authentication layers in GitLab for new services will use MTLS, and we're gonna have this system that will manage the certificates and the certificate authority or and things like that, right? So I think that's one thing that we need to decide. And another thing that we need to decide is maybe we don't do MTLS for topology service right now. I think we discussed in the past. I've discussed in the past with Kamil, not in issues, but like during meetings and passing, we could just use token authentication in the beginning, like hard-coded tokens in the beginning, and then roll out MTLS later. So we detach like the deployment and like configuring of runway, topology service on runway. We got that scope there and have MTLS its own project, because I feel like it's going to be quite a large project. It's good that we're looking at it to see if runway supports this and see if we need to rethink some things in runway. But I think it might make sense to put it into its own separate project, because like rotating certificates, managing multiple certificates, adding support for dual certificates, so then we can rotate certificates easily without downtime and things like that. Is I feel like, at least maybe it's just because I don't understand it enough, feels like a lot of work and feels like a lot of technical complexities that we need to look into. So I'm not sure, like that's my opinion, but like I'm happy to be overridden, and I won't fight back if I'm overridden at all. So yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
fair.
if I was under the impression that MTLS was a requirement, but if we are happy with doing token based, as you said, as a
I mean,
first
it is a
first iteration.
requirement. It is a requirement, but I would be happy to first, like for me, a bigger priority is supplying topology service and having MTLS. So it's a matter of priorities, not requirements in that case. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So like to
Like
clarify,
I mentioned,
MTLS. Sorry, go ahead.
like priority wise in my mind at least is deploy the topology service, REST, and gRPC with configuration and database migrations and things like that, and then MTLS, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Yep, makes sense.
So
Because
I
they're
guess
all
before the
requirements.
final, yeah. So like before GitLab.com, everything's on cells. Like we like by then MTLS needs to be in place, but before that we can afford to go around with other logics. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
Exactly.
Yep,
Exactly.
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll bring like take the discussion to the issue.
Yep.
When Jared
Yeah,
is
so
being there.
yeah, so it's a matter of priorities, I think, at this point, not requirements. So, and like what we can fit in Q2. So yeah.
Yeah. Sounds good. All right. So the database migration bit, I think I'm drafting like a proposal or blueprint for Runway, because we're sort of introducing a new type of workload, which is like jobs, like in Kubernetes speak, like there's cron jobs and jobs. So this has been requested from not just topology service but from other users too. So Yeah, so I'm working on the run on the proposal and gonna push it to put an MR for it, then implementation work after that. So I think this can be done by Q2, depending on the scopes of it. But I'll link you in and let me know who should be linked into the blueprint too. Probably I'll link you later after the team has got it to a state where it's
Yeah.
presentable and
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm happy to review the blueprint, and probably Camille would be really useful. So I reviewed from an infrastructure side, and Camille reviews it from an application side of things as well. Because it's the application developers that will end up leveraging database migrations and how they're gonna work, and probably not to be very process driven, but probably someone from the delivery team like Scarback or Alessio would be really useful, because they've been running database migrations for GitLab.com for years now, so they know all the dark corners there. So that might be useful as well for us to guide us in the right direction.
Sounds good. Wait, so I think to summarize the sync, our priorities, the priority is going to be on database migration and also the deployment into the separate GCP project. Because if we deploy, technically we could deploy it where like into the current project organization, and we can just run simple tests. But if you want to connect to a cloud spanner, then it's a lot better to just deploy everything in the same org. So
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
will spanner
so
be sorry? Yeah.
Sorry, Sylvester. So the priority is really just to get the REST service and gRPC deployed in GitLab runway staging. That's really the priority.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And work, like, so last time I talked to Kamil, which was 2-3 weeks ago, was the way Kamil wanted the structure was like, you have the a repository with the topology service code, right? Another repository with just the runway files, and then the runway files has the deployer, like the runway files ends up being the service project, and then we have the deployer project, right? So we're gonna end up having 3 projects rather than 2. Is that still gonna be the direction we're gonna go? Because I saw David have the runway deployer, the topology service deployer project inside of cells group. So is that still going to be the direction we're going to go for, or are we going to change direction?
Did you say 3 projects?
Yeah, so maybe I can my screen to
because yeah, I've got 2 in my head. I'm just wondering where the third one is.
Yeah, so topology service, that would be GitLab for GitLab cells. No, GitLab work cells, and then there would be topology service, right?
So that's where the code lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think I saw, let's see,
Topology service
under
deploy or something.
GitLab, yeah, GL infra cells, topology service, and this is what David is setting, and this is where the runway files exist, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Deployer, and then I'm guessing the runway creates deployer project. So this would be service project.
Oh, right. You're including the deployment project. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Deployment project.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, although actually there'll be 2 deployment projects.
Okay. Because we want REST and the gRPC one, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Is that there might be more once jobs are in. So
GitLab where is that?
I think it's a platform runway.
Yeah, there we go.
Deployments. Yes, there'll be 2 there.
There we go.
So one that's REST, and then there'll be a gRPC one.
Cool. Okay. And then we'll have one for gRPC.
Correct.
Okay.
So yes, that's the structure we're going with, I believe.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay. Cool. So okay, so to make sure I understand, next step is to finish wrap up the REST deployment, which right now it will just deploy to the existing staging environment, and then work with Eddie to unblock us, so then we can move to the new organization, right?
I believe so, yes. As for
Now,
the... Sorry, go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna ask, so we're gonna have two organizations. One, we're gonna have a dev organization and a production organization. So the Runway has to like swap the projects that deploys to during the pipeline. So staging will go into the dev organization, and then the production deploy will have to go to the production organization. Is that something that you're already thinking about, or is this news to you? Or yeah.
It's news to me, I suppose, that we're going to have different orgs, but that should be okay because really it's just a different folder ID, right, Sylvester?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a different folder ID. But I think
Yeah.
right now the GCP the group, like based on the provisional MR that is still in the works, we could tweak it. It's a group of GCP projects, like a single group would sit in a folder. So if there's multiple folder, like staging goes to self dev and production goes to self production, then I think it's like it would sort of be two groups in that sense. Like because technically you could deploy a staging production into sales dev and then a staging production into the sales production. But then yeah, I'll have to think about how we might need to rework it, because the assumption was that one folder would have the staging the different environment projects, whereas now technically
Yeah.
you're having the two folders.
Can you ping me in that merge request or issue where we're discussing it?
Sure.
So I explain my idea a bit better than here.
Sure.
And this is because one, we still don't really have a good grasp of how staging and production are gonna work, and how many environments we're gonna have and how we're rolling out changes. Because like when we try to look at it, it's a large problem. I can share the issue where we're discussing it.
There's no concept of staging, right? Once there's cells, it's just different levels of cells. Is it my understanding right?
Yeah, kind of, yes. Uh, for cells, yes, but then it ends up being complicated for these cell-wide services like topology service and router, right? And like DNS and things like that. These are global things that we can't just test in production willy-nilly. So this is what we've been thinking about. Let's see if I okay. Or let's see this replacement columns. Yeah. Like we could have, for example, the test organization and a production organization where we have multiple rings, and then we have the router and topology service, and these are separate organizations. Where if we want to test, I don't know, enable MTLS. Let's say we have topology service running without MTLS in production as well, right? Like first we need to enable it on staging, talking to these cells here, and then we go into production and talk to the cells here. So that's why we still kind of need a staging environment. Like we don't necessarily need a staging environment for the monolith per se, because we have rings, right? We're gonna propagate the ring, but we still have we still need a staging environment for these cluster-wide services, like the control plane for cells, which is AMP, the router, and topology service, right? So it's still not clear. Like we went through the workflows here, and like these are a lot of steps to roll out a change, and like we figured out a bunch of other issues that we have here that we haven't really thought of yet or figured out yet. So it's still a work in progress. That's why I mean, ask you to ping me on the issue so we can expand a little bit on that on the organization side of things from your end. Does that make sense?
Cool.
Yeah, sounds.
One more.
I think we should support it. Yeah.
Sorry, one quick question, Steve. We're currently about to deploy the topology service, the REST one, for testing purposes, with an external load balancer. Is that a concern, the fact that it's going to be public facing?
There's gonna be no private data on it.
Okay.
I mean, like someone could scrape it, and like the REST service is read only, so like not like they won't be even able to write to a database, and there is no database provisioned, right? So I
Okay,
think they're just got garbage data or no data at all. So I have no concerns there. But I would double check with Camille if you have the chance as well. But I suspect like unless like we're printing tokens in the response, I have no concerns.
No, I guess as you said, it's not a concern right now, but it's something that we should keep in the back of our heads that it is a public service. Like when we start adding stuff to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the REST service is gonna be a read-only service, but I think in the beginning it's gonna if I remember correctly, what we discussed is it's gonna return some hard-coded data, right? Because we're not gonna have a database, we're not gonna have a part like multiple cells, so we're gonna return hard-coded data. So we can start using the topology service, integrating with the topology service, but return us hard-coded data. So I don't think that's gonna be too much of a problem. And
Okay.
then we can add the token authentication or whatnot later on. So
Cool.
yeah.
Sounds good.
Anything else?
I think that's about it. Those are the main streams of work which are like crucial. Yeah, the rest like there's a whole other stream of work which is getting into ops, but that one doesn't affect topology service, and that should be transparent to you. Like if we trigger the pipeline in .com and we suddenly switch it to ops, the dev shouldn't see any difference anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like again, that's just a hard requirement for us, but like it's not like for me, priority is to get something to the developers' hands so they can start getting a feedback loop. But then yeah, like that makes sense. Having it that's more part of production readiness than anything else. Cool.
Yeah, that's it from my side.
Anything else I can help with?
That's all from me, Steve. Thank you, mate.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you for taking the time for me to catch up. I really appreciate it. I hope you have a nice week, and I'll get out of your way.
No worries.
Right, thanks.
Talk to you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. See ya.
Yeah.